Chapter 276, The Web's Lord Grimm. Sin City. Thunder and lightning continued to flash in the sky from time to time as the rain continued to pour down. Lord Grimm and Soft Mist were split up in the city. Both of them were searching for Christmas thieves. Yishu and Tang Ru quietly tapped their keyboards and clicked their mice. Apart from their typing, there was no other sound. Chen Guo was sitting between these two. She was running around with her chasing haze in the heavenly domain. She was running and running. Plunk. Chasing haze fell into a hole. F***ck, Chen Guo immediately had chasing haze jump out of the hole. She wasn't able to focus. In the previous PK, she had been the most excited one there, even though she was a spectator. Helpless, Chen Guo drank a sip of water and continued to run around aimlessly without a destination. 4 Christmas thieves. This was her progress up until now. In the previous hour, she had killed 3 of them. But during this hour, she hadn't made much progress. Because she was watching the 2 of them play, she was still a bit distracted. Whenever she found one, another player would always snatch it first. When someone else got to it first, Chen Guo would always quietly walk away. But this didn't mean that such situations were always peacefully resolved. Killing another player and stealing the monster was a common tactic that was taking place all over. The heavenly domain was truly a survival of the fittest world. Danger could come from anywhere. Since there wasn't any penalty for peeking here and the experience as well as the item drops were larger, killing other players for their items was a common occurrence. Perhaps not everyone liked the heavenly domain's atmosphere, but the heavenly domain wasn't a place that players were forced to go to. The players had a choice. However, the heavenly domain had better equipment, better materials, stronger bosses, and harder dungeons, which were enough incentives to make players constantly enter. If that enticement wasn't strong enough, most would probably stay in the normal servers to play. Chen Guo had once been attacked and had her equipment drop. She had been so angry that she had stopped playing for a whole week and had even wanted to go back to the old server. But not long after, she had climbed back onto the heavenly domain. This place had this type of magic to it. But currently, Chen Guo didn't feel good about the heavenly domain at all. She rigidly pressed forward. Her hands were almost numb. As for the 2 players beside her, both of them were clicking and tapping furiously. She didn't even need to look to know that they were constantly busy. In the new server, in Sin City, there were too many monsters and not enough players. They never needed to walk far to see a Christmas thief. As a comparison, how could she like playing on the heavenly domain? Running and running, she just couldn't snatch any Christmas thieves for herself. Chen Guo would sometimes measure herself against the 2 of them on her left and right. Gradually, she discovered that Yishu had quieted down, too. He was just like her. He seemed to only press forward and turn left and right stupidly. Chen Guo once again switched her attention to Yishu's screen instead of hers. Lord Grimm went through the street into an alley, looking everywhere. There seemed to be fewer Christmas thieves now. Or perhaps, there were more players now? Wherever Lord Grimm went, either the Christmas thieves had already been killed or there were already players fighting them. Yishu obviously didn't go and kill others to steal their monsters like Wind-Following Sword did. All he could do was turn around and keep looking. But it always seemed to be this way. Chen Guo watched for half an hour. He had only killed 2 Christmas thieves in that time. In an advantageous place like Sin City, where Yishu had previously killed 14 in an hour, killing 2 in half an hour was too strange. This could be seen from the leaderboards. During the half hour, Lord Grimm's name continued to fall. The system probably changed because you guys were too savage, no? Chen Guo suddenly said. Yishu turned his head and looked at her. He lightly shook his head and said, "Something's not right." "What's not right?" Chen Guo asked. Yishu didn't answer. He continued to patiently have Lord Grimm look around. Chen Guo obviously knew that the system couldn't have changed. Tang Ru was still busy fighting. It couldn't be that the change was only directed at Lord Grimm, so that it would only change wherever he moved, right? Chen Guo continued to watch. Another half an hour passed. It was even worse this time. He had only killed 1. 3 Christmas thieves in 1 hour was Yishu's achievement. Chen Guo didn't take the chance to take delight in his misfortunes. She also felt that something wasn't right either. I've been surrounded, Yi Shu said in response to Chen Guo's doubtful gaze. Surrounded? Yeah, there's always people nearby. Yi Shu pointed to a place not far away to a character who was killing a Christmas thief. They've set up a net around me, moving along with me. They'll have gone to all the nearby areas ahead of time. If there are Christmas thieves, then they'll either lead them away or kill them. That's why I rarely find any I can kill. Is that even possible? Chen Guo stared blankly. There's quite a lot of them. I just counted. There's 24 total. Chen Guo now understood that Yi Shu hadn't been blindly searching, hoping for some luck. After figuring out that something wasn't right, his movements about were to examine the situation. Through this half an hour of examining, he was able to come to a conclusion. Kill him, Chen Guo said. That evil? Yi Shu laughed. If they don't hurt me, then I won't hurt them, Chen Guo told him her reasoning. Then should I go and try? Yi Shu asked for her opinion. Go, Chen Guo said as if she was in charge. As a result, Lord Grimm rushed forward. But before he could even get anywhere close, the player turned tail and ran. The Christmas thief obviously followed behind the player. No matter how good of a player Yi Shu was, it would be very difficult for him to catch and kill it. Chen Guo watched, dumbstruck. They've prepared well, Yi Shu sighed. He checked the Christmas hunting leaderboards and saw that his rank had gone down by a lot. Yi Shu checked the first page of the leaderboards. Whoa, Excellent Dynasty is so mighty, Chen Guo blurted out. The first 15 places were held by Excellent Dynasty. Yi Shu smiled, but didn't say anything. A fan of Excellent Era would obviously be a fan of the in-game Excellent Dynasty. But Chen Guo understood. This type of painstaking work trying to make sure Yi Shu didn't kill any Christmas thieves was clearly because of the competition between the two sides. The competition was for the ranking positions on the leaderboards. And the only people who had that type of power was undoubtedly in a guild. Yi Shu's Lord Grimm didn't have a guild, so he was on the individual leaderboards. A guild still needed to suppress an individual? When Chen Guo saw the first 15 places, Chen Guo began to understand. Lord Grimm's name was rising up rapidly. He might soon knock one of them down, but the other 14 would still be there. Did they have to maintain all 15 places? Chen Guo couldn't understand this point because she didn't know the details of the 10th server. Chen Yahui's worries weren't groundless, however. If Lord Grimm really did step all over the leaderboards, then it was very possible that Excellent Dynasty's placings would immediately turn into nothing. When that time came, who knew what those stupid noobs would say? Blue Brook Guild and Tyrannical Ambition had encountered it. Which guild wasn't afraid of that happening? Chen Yahui hadn't personally run over to the 10th server in order to witness a tragedy. Are these players from Excellent Dynasty? Chen Guo was somewhat unsure. Seems like it, Yi Shu said. What type of enmity do you guys have with each other? Chen Guo didn't understand the 10th server's situation, so she could only think that Yi Shu had some sort of quarrel with them. It's a long story. Then what are you going to do now? Chen Guo asked. Let me think, Yi Shu said. Not bad. Meanwhile, Chen Yahui was also paying attention to the leaderboards. Lord Grimm's ranking was falling and he knew that it was the result of his actions. Seeing that the effects were still going on after an hour, Chen Yahui happily sent Wind Following Sword a reward. Haha, it's nothing, Wind Following Sword said modestly, though he was secretly extremely delighted. How is he reacting? Chen Yahui asked. After running around blindly for an hour, he seems to have just figured out that something isn't right. Wind Following Sword was already looking down on Yichu's intelligence. Then he's probably going to move out soon. Be careful. Okay, I'll be waiting. One of Glory's 4 famous master tacticians. Actually, I've always wanted to test myself against them. I want to see for myself just how godly their tactics are. The clear achievements after an hour had put Wind Following Sword in high spirits. Chapter 277, Spinning Spiderweb Formation. Have you thought of a solution? Have you thought of a solution? Chen Guo was even more anxious than Yi Shu was. I've thought of a very dependable method, but I need someone who's brave and smart enough for it, Yishu said. What's the method? Chen Guo asked. Go to Club Excellent Era across the street and cut the lines. What do you think? Can you do it? F***ck off, Chen Guo wasn't happy. He was clearly having fun with her. Ha ha, Yishu laughed, but his hands had already begun moving. As Lord Grimm began to move again, he went into the alleys and ran around. Chen Guo didn't understand his intent. He seemed to be doing the same thing as he had been doing in the previous hour. He was just running around stupidly. Just as she was going to say something, Yishu suddenly pointed his hands at her screen. Thief. Ah, Chen Guo immediately turned around and looked. Sure enough, there was a Christmas thief where Yishu was pointing it. Without hesitating, she had Chasing Haze lift up her cannon and accurately fired at it. Chen Guo cheered and continued to fire, but still looked at Yishu's screen from time to time. She wanted to know what the situation was like. Go and fight your thief. I'm going to be running around like this for a while, Yishu said. Running around and doing what? Chen Guo asked. Observing their formation. Oh, Chen Guo actually wanted to keep asking, but she discovered that that previously lazy guy had disappeared. Right now, Yishu was extremely focused. His eyes spun and spun, chasing after his extremely quick-moving character. He was clearly researching something seriously. Chen Guo decided not to say anything. She wouldn't bother him and went on to focus on her Christmas thief. Yishu never stopped moving. Lord Grimm looked around in a small circle. The situation was still the same. The Christmas thieves that could be found had already been snatched away. After winding past 3 streets, Lord Grimm suddenly jumped up. He raised his weapon and used an aerial fire, jumping to the rooftop. After this, he jumped off with another aerial fire, and headed directly towards the other side of the street. He had never done this before. When Wind Following Sword received the report, he didn't think much of it. That's it? His thinking is too simple. What are his coordinates? Wind Following Sword followed. The member had been prepared and sent him Lord Grimm's coordinates. This Wind Following Sword saw the coordinates and was immediately startled. Originally, after receiving Lord Grimm's coordinates, he would set up adjustments for their formation. But this set of coordinates was too familiar to him. This was because this set of coordinates was very similar to the set of coordinates he had just been at. Lord Grimm is nearby. When Wind Following Sword became aware of this, his character immediately began to move. He turned around and sprinted towards the street. At the same time, he lifted his camera and checked the rooftops. Sure enough, Wind Following Sword really did find Lord Grimm. He was standing on the rooftop, looking down at him. How could Wind Following Sword dare delay? He immediately used a triple slash to run. He was the same as his other team members. As soon as they saw Lord Grimm, they wouldn't wait until he got close to them. This was Wind Following Sword's orders. No one posed a chance at facing Yichu one-on-one. Having thoughts of fighting would only hold them back. After all, their guild's main mission was still to fight Christmas thieves. Is he chasing? Is he chasing? Wind Following Sword didn't want to turn his head. He was afraid that turning his head would affect his movements. He listened closely. He didn't hear any footsteps or gun sounds. After a while, Wind Following Sword finally turned around to take a look. He hadn't. There was no sign of Lord Grimm. There was just an empty field. Wind Following Sword let out a sigh. As for his previous position, Wind Following Sword recalled it and then quickly sent orders to the other team members. Not long after, another teammate reported back, sending him Lord Grimm's new coordinates. Wind Following Sword looked and saw that he was still in their formation's range. He couldn't help but laugh coldly. Running around on the rooftops truly made things a bit more difficult, but was that it? Yichu isn't anything much, Wind Following Sword said to himself. Just as he closed the message, he glanced at his own coordinates. Huh, why did it look familiar? These coordinates were very close to the ones that the team member had reported for Lord Grimm. Wind Following Sword was startled again. He immediately wanted to run, but a figure suddenly landed in front of him. If that wasn't Lord Grimm, then who else could it be? So you know who I am. Yi Shu smiled. Yi Chu, wind following sword, called out the name. He was feeling a bit panicked. Since they were a bit too close to each other, it was very possible that he wouldn't be able to get away. But luckily, the formation wouldn't fall apart with just one death. Even if he died, the formation would still continue on. Thinking of this, wind following sword calmed down and laughed. So you've actually caught up. But so what? I can't 1v1 you, so I'll die. But I'm sure you've already figured it out, right? Our goal isn't to PK with you. Haha, it's just a spinning spiderweb formation. Oh, you really deserve to be called God Yi. You know your stuff. Wind following sword's voice contained a bit of mocking in it. So what if he knew what it was? Wasn't he still helpless in front of it? Wind following sword was delighted. But you don't. Did you know that I was the one who created the spinning spiderweb formation? Yi Shu was still smiling. What did you say? Wind following sword was startled. Do you have a map with you? When you go back to the city, clean up your teammates' positions, Yi Shu said, and then had Lord Grimm dash forward. Wind following sword brandished his sword in defense. However, he had been too startled by Yi Shu's words. His thoughts were no longer on the battle. When wind following sword fell, he still hadn't figured out what had happened. He immediately decided to revive and have his teammates report their positions. Yi Chu had created the spinning spiderweb formation? Wind following sword didn't know that. He had accidentally discovered it while browsing around on the internet. It looked interesting, so he had studied it for a bit. He had also used it quite a few times over the years. If not, then he wouldn't have been so familiar with it. He really couldn't remember who the authors of the materials he had gathered were. Maybe Yi Chu was one of them. If Yi Chu was, he wouldn't be surprised. These types of gods, who had been playing since the start of the game, had written many guides. Wind following sword really hadn't paid attention to who had created the spinning spiderweb formation. Wind following sword couldn't deal with all of this. After receiving everyone's positions, he immediately found an online map outside of the game's window. The online map he had found was quite detailed. His mouse showed the coordinates. Wind following sword lit up everyone's coordinates, and, not long after, the formation was clearly shown. Lord Grimm's position had still been within the formation's area of control. There weren't any problems with it. Was it just a bluff? Wind following sword thought as he continued to direct everyone. He had everyone head towards his previous location and revise their position. Not long after, the team members reported back with Lord Grimm's new coordinates. Wind following sword no longer controlled his character and now focused only on sending messages and directing their movements. The online map had many functions. Right now, Wind following sword felt like he was playing a strategy game. Yi Chu, I want to see how you'll escape. Wind following sword began to slowly recover from the previous scare. The corners of his mouth pricked up and he began laughing coldly again. Heart Needle, head east 2 blocks. Watch the right street. Minar, go up to the roof on your left. Sand, go back to that crossing behind you. Wind following sword casually directed them. The more he played, the happier he became. He felt like he was playing with the opponent. And this opponent was a top-tier god in glory. That type of feeling was truly unprecedented. More messages came. Wind following sword looked and saw Lord Grimm's coordinates again. Wind following sword calmly checked the map and once again gave a string of orders. And after deploying his team, he suddenly discovered that there was a huge hole in his spinning spiderweb formation. How? Wind following sword's feelings went up and down. He immediately had a team member head to fix that hole, but he quickly received new coordinates for Lord Grimm. Is he heading towards the opening? Wind following sword nervously looked at the map. Chapter 278, Break the Formation. The guest acts as the host. Sure enough. When he compared Lord Grimm's previous coordinates to his current one, he found that Lord Grimm was heading directly towards the hole in the formation. Judging from the time that the coordinates were sent, it looked as if Lord Grimm had changed directions very early on and very decisively. It seemed like he knew that there would be a hole here. Wind following sword hastily messaged any nearby players to fix the hole. Judging by the distance, there was still enough time. However, his sudden dispatch caused another area without anyone there to appear. Based on the direction that Lord Grimm was moving towards, Wind Following Sword decided that he should dispatch those who were far away from Lord Grimm to fill the gap. That was how the spinning spiderweb formation worked. But as soon as he had sent out the messages and heaved a sigh of relief, he then discovered that he had received another report of Lord Grimm's coordinates. Wind Following Sword checked the report and immediately exploded. Lord Grimm had changed directions again. He had just given a bunch of orders and now they were all pointless. Lord Grimm was currently heading towards the gap they had left after adjusting their positions. Wind Following Sword couldn't pay attention to anything else but Lord Grimm. He hastily sent another round of orders. And this time, in order to fix the gap, he had to adjust even more people, which meant he had to send out more messages. Wind Following Sword hastily moved his hands and increased his hand speed. But instead of using them on playing the game, he used it to type faster. His character stood still in Kanji City. He didn't have any time to take even a single step. In Sin City, Lord Grimm continued to advance, rushing forward in a straight line. No one was more clear on the principles of the spinning spiderweb formation than Yi Shu. Actually, he didn't know who exactly was giving out the commands, but during his hour of running around, which Chen Guo had assumed he was still searching for Christmas thieves, in reality, Yi Shu was actually observing his opponents. After an hour of observing, Yi Shu understood how many players were on the other side's formation. Every time he saw their positions, he gradually grasped the positions of everyone in the spinning spiderweb formation. The 24 excellent dynasty players and their positions were constantly revolving in Yi Shu's head. After this, Yi Shu could predict what his opponents would do with every change in direction he made. However, he still had to confirm it. After all, if the person executing the formation was different, then the person's habits and adjustments might not follow his predictions. Yi Shu was especially worried that the other side hadn't learned the formation well. If that was the case, then his carefully made predictions would be thrown off. However, in that case, breaking out of the formation would also be just as easy. If that were the case, he wouldn't need to do anything too technical. By testing the reactions in the formation for a bit, Yi Shu discovered that his opponent knew what he was doing. His opponent had already grasped and understood the spinning spiderweb formation extremely well. But unfortunately, even so, the spinning spiderweb formation wasn't unbeatable. As the creator of the spinning spiderweb formation, even if there weren't any holes, Yi Shu could create one. This type of hole couldn't really be considered a hole, but an innate flaw of the spinning spiderweb formation. This flaw laid in the commander. Because the orders given had to be extremely precise, every time there was a change in direction, the commander had to give almost every character in the formation an order. When the situation changed too quickly, the commander would have a hard time keeping up. And Lord Grimm, the spinning spiderweb formation's prey, was causing this to happen. After grasping the other side's formation, Yi Shu immediately began to execute his plan. Killing Wind Following Sword was the plan's first step. Wind Following Sword was already killed, thus that area temporarily became empty. The commander had to make up for this and, from then on, the formation came under Yi Shu's lead. Even though he wasn't the commander, in a sense, he was the guide for the formation. How they moved depended entirely on him. And from here on out, Yi Shu became the guest that acted as the host. By following the movements he had planned out beforehand, he would ultimately drive the other side's movements and continuously hasten his speed, creating an opening and allowing him to break through. A hole. There was one, but the hole wasn't big enough, yet. Continue. Even though Yi Shu didn't have an online map that he could use to grasp the entire situation, the map he had in his head was even clearer. The points on the online map were static, but in Yi Shu's mind, the points were constantly moving. F***CK. When Wind Following Sword received another set of coordinates, he wanted to rock the table in frustration, but he was too busy moving. Lord Grimm once again headed towards the fault in the formation. There shouldn't be a fault in the spinning spiderweb formation, so why was there one here? Wind Following Sword hastily gave orders as he pondered. He was reflecting back step by step to find where the problem had occurred. Finally, Wind Following Sword's reflection found an answer. He locked onto the moment when he had died. The problem started there. Wind Following Sword suddenly understood. The spinning spiderweb formation didn't require a precise number of players to work. If there was one fewer or one more, the movements were the same. However, the instant that he died, a blank space appeared in their 24-player formation. When he revived, he immediately went to fix it. The appearance of the crack was only for a brief moment. But now that he looked at it, he had lost. He hadn't been able to fix it and, instead, the more he tried to fix it, the greater the opening became, all the way until you could clearly see the opening if you looked at the map. Up until then, Wind-Following Sword was still somewhat clueless. But now, he finally understood it after seeing Lord Grim accurately rush towards the opening time and time again. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a scenario that the other side had created. Yi Chu. He had originally been the prey in their net, but now he had already become the host. Right now, he was completely dictating how the net was being woven. And he himself, even after understanding the situation, he still couldn't fix it. Wind-Following Sword hastily gave out more orders. It was the same as before. He was pulling down one wall only to put up another. The opening in his spinning spiderweb formation was growing larger and larger. Not good. Sweat had already started forming on Wind-Following Sword's head. He wasn't fighting, but his two hands sounded like they were tapping the keyboard even more furiously than they were in a battle. I can't keep up. Wind-Following Sword discovered that with so many adjustments to make, by the time he sent them all out, would there still be enough time to keep Lord Grim in the middle? Wind-Following Sword grew nervous and worried, but his hands never stopped moving. Just a bit more. Just a bit more. Wind-Following Sword encouraged himself repeatedly. Of the 23 players, Wind-Following Sword was only able to give out 17 orders this time. He had to look at each player's position, determine each player's movements, and then give them an order. This wasn't as easy as it sounded. After sending the 17 orders, Wind-Following Sword felt his hands becoming fatigued and his head ached. And then another message came. No way. Wind-Following Sword fell into despair. Whenever an adjustment was made, someone would report Lord Grim's coordinates. After this, he would go into a frenzy once again. How many times had he done this now? Wind-Following Sword's fatigued hands opened the message and tears immediately began streaming down his face. And sure enough, Lord Grim once again changed routes. Wind-Following Sword didn't even need to look at the online map to confirm it, because he already had experience with this. Lord Grim must be going towards the opening. Where was the opening? How could Wind-Following Sword not know? He didn't want an opening to be there, but there was nothing that he could do about it. This was because ever since the first crack in the formation had appeared as a result of his death, Lord Grim had led the way to widen the opening. Wind-Following Sword hoped that he could have some time to fix it, but he didn't. Lord Grim's movements never gave him the chance to. In other words, up until now, Wind-Following Sword hadn't been able to switch from a 24-player formation to a 23-player formation yet. Everything began when he died. But Wind-Following Sword continued to persevere. Thinking, making the decision, and giving the orders. His head hurt and his hands almost felt like they weren't his own. This time, Wind-Following Sword gave orders to 19 players. This was a contest. Wind-Following Sword clearly understood that even though he couldn't see his opponent, the movement of the red dot on his map was in a struggle with him, as if they had fiercely clasped hands together and were arm wrestling. This was no longer the casual and easygoing leading that he did in the beginning. At this moment, Lord Grim was repeatedly battering and tearing down his net. He won't break out. Wind-Following Sword finished 19 messages. He had done it. In that instant, he felt extremely satisfied, because he had completed a difficult challenge. Before this, he hadn't believed that he could accomplish such a feat in such a short amount of time. It was all simply a miracle. Sure enough, his true potential only came out against a worthy opponent. Wind-Following Sword looked at the red dot on the map as well as the opening that had appeared again. Lord Grim once again headed towards it. He wouldn't be flustered this time, because he had already accomplished a great feat. He was confident that he could continue on with this situation. He was completely prepared. Wind-Following Sword's spirits roused. He waited for the report back and waited for those coordinates. This time, he had built up his confidence and suddenly began to enjoy this type of challenge. Wind following sword waited and waited. But this time, the prompt report never came. Wind following sword began to ask for it himself. He asked the players in front of Lord Grimm, 1, 2, 3. He asked them all, but none of them had seen Lord Grimm. Wind following sword fell dumbstruck. If the spinning spiderweb formation couldn't grasp the prey's location, then that could only mean one thing: the prey had escaped the web. Chapter 279, I Can Persuade Them. The feeling of falling from the heavens down to the earth was something that Wind following sword understood now. Letting Lord Grimm escape wasn't too bad, but the worst part was that Lord Grimm had crushed Wind following sword's confidence. He had just built it up and was filled with tremendous self-confidence, only for it to be destroyed in an instant. He had originally thought that what he had been doing was amazing, but it had actually been pointless work. When he pulled off the feat, Lord Grimm had already rushed out of the opening. In the end, he had been able to escape. Wind following sword's fingers had turned numb for real this time. Spinning spiderweb formation. The word spinning pointed to maintaining a constant circle around the target. Even if the target didn't react intensely, the players in the formation had to keep on moving. Especially since, this time, Excellent Dynasty's goal was to clear away all the Christmas thieves around Lord Grimm, which required them to move even more. Having not received any orders for a while, some of the players were beginning to message him, asking what was up. Lord Grimm is already gone, Wind following sword replied without any embarrassment, only disappointment. Ah. Wind following sword sent another round of orders, but this time, it was to have the players pull back and monitor the entire area. The visibility in Sin City wasn't good. Maybe Lord Grimm had intentionally stopped moving in some spot? This seemed to be their last line of hope, but Wind following sword wasn't expecting anything. The reality was as Wind following sword had predicted. Lord Grimm was already outside of the spinning spiderweb formation. Where did he go? He didn't know at the moment and would have to look. We failed, Wind following sword messaged Chen Yahui. What? Lord Grimm escaped from our control, Wind following sword said. That doesn't matter. You guys were still able to delay him for an hour. In this hour, his ranking has been dropping. This is all because of your efforts. Keep up the good work, Chen Yahui said. Wind following sword was startled. Clearly, Chen Yahui didn't care that Yi Chu had broken out. Even if he did, it had still delayed him for an hour. If they kept on doing this and maintained this type of delay, then Chen Yahui's goal would be reached. Wind following sword understood this too, but he was no longer in the mood to continue doing this. In his heart, he was already the loser. And now, the loser had to keep on getting trampled by the other side. How could that be fun? But he would still accomplish their goal. Wind following sword forced himself to look from Chen Yahui's point of view. After replying to Chen Yahui, he renewed his spirits and rushed towards Sin City, while sending his players to search for Lord Grimm. If he was going to do it, then he would try his hardest to do it well. Wind following sword changed his attitude and his line of thinking. Sin City. Even though Yi Shu had successfully escaped from the spinning spiderweb formation, he knew that it wasn't over. He understood Excellent Dynasty's goal, to hinder his progress in the event and prevent him from messing with Excellent Dynasty's lead. They're too crazy. Such a large guild intends on competing with you? Chen Guo was filled with disbelief. There's a lot of pressure as an expert. Even if you don't want to, you can't help but become another person's obstacle, Yi Shu sighed, making Chen Guo really want to smash his head into the table. Even though he really was an expert, couldn't he be a little bit more modest? As an expert, you obviously won't concede, right? Chen Guo asked. Concede? How? Not do the Christmas quests, Yi Shu replied. Try a different angle. For example, you can join Excellent Dynasty. For an expert like you, if you're willing, then I'm sure they'll accept. Chen Guo felt that her suggestion was quite good. After all, Excellent Dynasty was her guild, and having her guild get into a fight with her friend didn't seem right, so Chen Guo finally concluded on this. If he joined, then wouldn't everyone be happy? Yi Shu turned his head to look at Chen Guo. Don't tell me you were sent by Chen Yahui. Yi Shu had used Chen Guo's account, so he obviously knew that Chen Guo was a member of Excellent Dynasty. Huh? You even know the guild leader? Chen Guo was astonished. Of course. He's the one leading the work in the 10th server, Yishu said. Really? Even the guild leader went to the 10th server to pioneer? No wonder I haven't been seeing him very often. A lot of experts have been coming on less too. Could they have run to the 10th server, too? Chen Guo mumbled. Oh, that's a thing. Yeah. Look, Chen Guo opened up her Chasing Hazes guild interface. On the guild list, she pointed out a bunch of gray names to Yishu. She also proudly gave them a short introduction. Yishu only quietly listened. He had actually heard of some of these names before. He was once Excellent Era's team captain after all. If there were any experts in the guild, then the guild would definitely report to the team. This was the most established way of finding new players, choosing from the experts in-game. Testing the guild's experts was a task that Yishu had frequently done. All of Excellent Dynasty's top-tier experts had a datasheet of them in the club. Some of them had even been done by Yishu. These types of characters left some impression on him. So it's like that. Now that Yishu saw Chen Guo's guild list, he knew that Excellent Dynasty come to the 10th server in full force. But unfortunately, their guild with their high ambitions met him, who oppressed all of the guilds. Of course, with oppression, there would be resistance. Yishu didn't think that the reactions from the guilds were weird. However, he would also compete against them like so. Shrink back? If he had that thought, then from the very start, Yishu wouldn't have brought out his Lord Grimm with the myriad manifestation umbrella. So it's like what? Chen Guo was still asking. They're so far ahead in the Christmas event that they dominate the first 15th places in the leaderboard. It turns out that Excellent Dynasty had sent out so many experts. No wonder, Yishu said. You could also be one of them. Completely unaware of the situation, Chen Guo was still trying to persuade him. If I really can't go on any further, then I'll consider it, Yishu smiled. Do you want me to talk to them for you? I'm actually pretty familiar with a few experts. I can persuade them. Chen Guo didn't say it without pride. Yishu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Okay. If I need to do it, then you have to help me. Yishu didn't make fun of Chen Guo's good intentions. Chen Guo nodded her head in satisfaction. She then looked at Yishu's Lord Grimm, who was still running around randomly. She couldn't help but ask, from the looks of it, you should hurry up and consider it. It's been almost 2 hours and how many Christmas thieves have you hunted down? Relax. You can still help, Yishu laughed. When the entire Excellent Dynasty is crying, you can tell Chen Yahui that you can come to my place and persuade me. Your place? You're too arrogant. I'll kick you out. Chen Guo reminded Yishu to pay attention to his status. She was the boss, after all. An employee dares to order her around? If I tell you to go east, then you go east. That's the way it should be. Yeah. Yishu nodded his head repeatedly. In the end, Chen Guo pointed at his screen and yelled, Christmas thief. Hurry. I see it, Yishu replied and fired at it. The Christmas thief immediately rushed towards Lord Grimm, but Lord Grimm didn't meet with the thief. Instead, he jumped into the air with an aerial fire and flew onto a rooftop. What are you doing? Chen Guo didn't understand. Aren't Christmas thieves designed in this way? The thief is very evil and merciless. He hid his identity and stole Santa's carefully prepared presents. So as soon as he's been discovered, in order to continue hiding his identity, he will attack the player that has found him to shut his mouth, Yishu said. Sounds right, Chen Guo said. I plan on testing this setup. How are you going to do that? Chen Guo asked. I want to see if he'll continue chasing to try and kill me, Yishu said, and, at this moment, the Christmas thief chased after him up onto the roof. This Christmas thief was an assassin class. He was good at jumping and didn't even need to climb the walls. At the highest point of his first jump, he jumped again. The Christmas thief leapt onto the roof. Yishu didn't fight. He had Lord Grimm turn around and run and jump to the other side of the street. On this street, there was unexpectedly a Christmas thief sneaking about. Lord Grimm opened up his myriad manifestation umbrella and fired at it. How many Christmas thieves do you think there are in Sin City? Yishu suddenly asked Chen Guo. Chapter 280, Gathering a Mob. What are you planning on doing? Chen Guo's tone carried a hint of disbelief. Yi Shu had aggroed 2 Christmas thieves, but he hadn't gone to fight them, making her feel like he had gone insane. Should we count them? Yi Shu said. You're crazy, Chen Guo watched, dumbstruck. Right now, I count 2 of them. Yi Shu actually started counting, while Chen Guo continued to watch in disbelief. Is this guy planning on aggroing all of Sin City's Christmas thieves onto his body? Why would he try to commit suicide? 2 Christmas thieves chased behind Lord Grimm. The Christmas thieves' levels, classes and stats were different, so they moved at different speeds as well. The newly aggroed Christmas thief held a great sword and really did look like a berserker. His movement speed was relatively normal, but the assassin Christmas thief was clearly faster. However, because Yi Shu was using aerial fire to fly backwards, he held the advantage in movement speed. Not only were they not getting any closer, they were growing farther and farther apart, up until the point where the berserker had been left behind. If this was any normal monster, Yi Shu would have already escaped from the thief's aggro range and would then stop being chased by the thief. However, this Christmas thief wasn't going to give up. The thief was quite similar to a dungeon's elite monster. Bang! Lord Grimm once again fired another round, hitting a 3rd Christmas thief, who immediately took out his weapon and began chasing after him. 3. Yi Shu turned his head towards Chen Guo and reported the number he had counted. Chen Guo had completely turned to stone. She didn't have any reaction. Her head seemed to have already turned into a broken machine. Seeing Yi Shu act like this, was he serious? There was no information on how many Christmas thieves were in a leveling area. However, the number of monsters in a leveling area had a limit. For example, if the limit was 100, then if there were 100 monsters, a 101st monster wouldn't spawn. If the 100th monster died, then another monster would spawn after a certain amount of time. Chen Guo had guessed what Yi Shu was trying to do. She had also guessed what the result of his actions would be. However, was it even possible to do what he was planning? Could he guarantee that he could survive having so many Christmas thieves, all of different classes, chasing after him? Wasn't that too much pressure? Number 4, Chen Guo was still thinking, when Yi Shu reported that he had counted to 4. Because of the differences in movement speed, the 4 monsters were chasing after him in different places, but they were still quite a bit of distance away from Lord Grimm. Aerial fire's movement speed was determined by the character's firearm. The higher the physical attack on the firearm was, the greater the recoil would be and the faster its movement speed would be. Yi Shu's myriad manifestation umbrella was considered a rifle with a recoil second only to the handcannon. It was also a level 25 silver weapon, so its stats were equivalent to a level 30 orange weapon. The movement speed from its aerial fire was exceptional. In addition to his skilled playing, his aerial fire never seemed to stop, except only whenever he needed to land on the ground. It looked as if he was moving backwards in a perfectly straight line. Chen Guo had no way of seeing this type of result through Yi Shu's first-person camera though. Otherwise, she would have definitely been astonished. All she could see was that Yi Shu's playing was quite quick and precise. 5. Yi Shu continued to count. The number of Christmas thieves that he had gathered became 5. 6. 7. 8. The population in Sin City was sparse. Since Yi Shu was only looking and not killing, his speed was naturally faster. Not long after, a long line of Christmas thieves were chasing after him, which caught the attention of any players who saw him. That many Christmas thieves in one mob? Lord Grimm's so greedy. Sure, he's greedy, but he's good if he can actually kill them all. No one had yet to figured out Yi Shu's crazy idea. The players who had seen him had only thought that he was gathering a mob and then proceeding to killing them all at once, which was a common technique for leveling. However, Christmas thieves were quite strong and their respawns weren't concentrated in one area, so most players decided to kill them one by one. Only Chen Guo understood everything. The train that Lord Grimm had created was growing longer and longer. Right now, there were already 18 Christmas thieves. Lord Grimm was completely safe, which was Chen Guo's greatest astonishment. Among these Christmas thieves were long-ranged classes who were firing bullets and magic at him. But, none of these attacks affected Lord Grimm's movement speed. While dodging these attacks, Lord Grimm shuffled through streets and alleys in Sin City. While doing this, he had aggroed several Sin City residents as well, but these normal monsters weren't as persistent and, after chasing for a while, they were shaken off. The train was still expanding. As the train passed, Yi Shu had even met Su Mucheng's cleansing mist. Su Mucheng didn't know about the situation and thought that Yi Shu had encountered some trouble. She immediately fired at the mob of Christmas thieves. However, these Christmas thieves had the setup where only the first attacker counted, so they wouldn't aggro onto her. The Christmas thieves continued to chase after Lord Grimm and Su Mucheng was still attacking, so Yi Shu messaged her. "Stop attacking. Stop attacking." Su Mucheng stopped. "What are you doing?" "Gathering a mob," Yi Shu replied. "You've already gathered so many. That still isn't enough?" "Not enough. I'm going to gather all of the Christmas thieves in the entire city." Along with this, he sent an arrogant smiley face. "Why?" "It's a competition. A competition to see who kills the most Christmas thieves." "So it's like that. Then, it looks like there isn't any point to staying here." Su Mucheng wasn't surprised like Chen Guo was, because she didn't doubt that Yi Shu could do this. "Seems like it," Yi Shu replied. "Though staying here to watch the chaos doesn't sound too bad." Su Mucheng also sent a smiley face. "Then you can go and grab a good spot in advance," Yi Shu said. "Where?" "At the clock tower." Oh, Su Mucheng immediately understood, but she didn't immediately go. Her cleansing mist ran in the opposite direction of Lord Grimm. Soon after, she sent a message with her coordinates. "Do you want to play, too?" Yi Shu obviously understood what the message was for. "I'm afraid that I'd mess it up, so it's better if you did it on your own," Su Mucheng replied. Yi Shu led the train to the coordinates and saw Su Mucheng guarding a Christmas thief, which hadn't yet been attacked. Another carriage was added to the train and Su Mucheng was now running around helping Yi Shu find new targets. 30. Yi Shu had stopped counting out loud, but Chen Guo was still silently counting. 30 Christmas thieves were following behind Lord Grimm now. The train's momentum was growing larger and larger. The footsteps from the train shook half the city block with every road he passed through. Meanwhile, on Excellent Dynasty's side, Chen Yahui had finally received a report. In the beginning, he didn't know about this. He had only been looking at the leaderboards and had seen Lord Grimm's name continue to drop. He had thought that it was because of Wind Following Sword's actions, but he didn't know that, up until now, Wind Following Sword hadn't been able to find Lord Grimm's whereabouts. Only now did someone in the guild talk about Lord Grimm's train. "He's gathered around 20 or 30 Christmas thieves," a player reported. Everyone thought that he was only gathering up a mob. Even Chen Yahui, who knew of Lord Grimm's real identity, didn't even think of such a crazy idea. Has he gone mad from our methods? Is he planning on gathering a bunch of monsters and then killing them? Chen Yahui thought. Should we go and mess things up for him? The Christmas thief train continued to expand. 40, 50. The spectating players finally felt that something wasn't right. There should be a limit to how many monsters he would gather, right? If he continued to gather them, wasn't he just asking to be killed? No one continued to think that he was only gathering them for the sake of gathering them and killing them all at once. However, none of them had any clue what his actual purpose was. Time continued to pass. Lord Grimm's placing on the leaderboards continued to drop, but the number of Christmas thieves behind him continued to increase. Chen Guo was already in complete disbelief. Tang Ru had also noticed and was speechless, too. 100. 200. 300. The number of Christmas thieves continued to increase. The number of passengers in the train were enough to fill up an entire street. A full 6 hours had passed. Yi Shu hadn't left his seat the entire time. He hadn't eaten dinner, nor had he had a drink of water. He hadn't gone to the restroom yet, either. All he did was continue with his insane plan and winning Chen Guo's special approval, who personally helped him light up a cigarette. Chen Guo didn't dare interrupt him. Now that things had reached this far, she wanted to see just how far Yi Shu could take it. Just how many Christmas thieves were there in Sin City? Chen Guo had already completely forgotten about her own character. She was only focused on Yi Shu's situation now. The pressure of 300 Christmas thieves was quite enormous. Yi Shu's expression was completely focused. His gaze never left the screen and he had maintained this concentration for a long time already.